Hey team, and welcome. I'm your host, Carrie, creator of Mother Life, your destination for all things real talk and parenting. This is the IRL group chat, where we talk about the wild balancing act of pursuing careers and passions while also doing our best to show up for our kids. Join me every week as I sit down with some badass parents in my closet and we talk about their careers, kids, and relationships and all of the weird shit that comes up when you're trying to balance the seemingly impossible. The general thesis of this podcast is that there's no one right way to parent. There's no one right way to live a life, to balance career and parenting. And yet, many of us find ourselves falling into similar societal traps about how it's all supposed to work. And even if we buck the trend in practice, the messages from our own childhoods, our peers, our families, they can gnaw at us. I had a conversation recently with my trainer about parenting. She has 2 adult kids. And she said, parenting isn't hard if you keep it simple. And at first, I balked at the notion. But she elaborated, if you focus on what you're doing and the time you're spending with your kids, rather than worrying about what other people are doing with their kids, the classes they're supposed to be in, the places you're supposed to take them to, if you just focus on keeping it simple and spending the time that you want to be with your kids, everything else is pretty straightforward. And that is simple, but it's also refreshing and liberating in a way. Then along came this conversation that you'll hear today with another trainer, in fact, a Nike Global trainer, who seems to just naturally be keeping it simple in this chapter of her life with her husband, her 3 young kids, and as you'll soon hear, her chickens and bees. Betina Gozo Shimonek is a force in the training and wellness community. She literally wrote Women's Health Magazine's Women's Guide to Strength Training. Her path had me thinking a lot about courage. The courage to change course. The courage to be vulnerable along the way, the courage to do things differently because her internal compass, often the one we get very good at ignoring over the years, told her to stop, reflect, and leave behind the things that weren't serving her. I hope you listen, enjoy, share with a friend, and have a chat about what this all means to you. And in advance, my apologies to you, dear listener, and to the wonderful Betina for the less than perfect sound quality. The closet is currently working on some tech upgrades that can hopefully support better sound for our remote mothers soon. Enjoy. I'm going to just close the door. I would put this at a 75% chance that some child runs in here at some point while we're hanging out.
Love it. I'm actually in a separate area, so...
God bless. Probably won't get any chickens because I don't have any yet.
Yeah. I mean, mine will probably come in here. They're usually pecking at my door.
You know, I really didn't know that I was going to come for the Betina but stay for the chickens, but like I'm deeply invested in your chicken journey.
Well, and I haven't shared the bee journey yet either. I have bees as well.
What kind of bees are they?
They're golden Cordovans.
So they're like nice, gentle bees.
They're nice, gentle bees. They're sweet. My son, when I was like putting the nukes in the hives, he literally was just sitting there like with no bee suit on and was just like standing there. We're like, all right, like yeah, they don't mess with anybody as long as we don't mess with them. At some point, I just stopped wearing gloves.
Yeah.
Sometimes I just had my coat on. I didn't even have my thing on because as long as you have a smoker. Yeah. And you're not like really just being aggressive with them, they don't care.
I find if you're not aggressive with people and you offer them smoke, they are also pretty relaxed. In my personal experience.
I love that so much.
Bettina, it's so nice to meet you. Welcome.
I'm so excited to literally be in the closet.
Are you ready for this?
I'm ready. I'm here for it. I've lived it.
All right. Okay. So, hilariously, as a clearly non-Filipina woman, we have very strong Filipina representation on the podcast. So I saw that you said somewhere that your mom is a nurse.
Of course.
Was that true?
I mean,
yes. Yeah. Well, I didn't know this was a thing until now. Until now, I like really know it's a thing. First generation American, you?
Yeah.
Are you? Okay,
well,
so
I was
like
born in the Philippines, came here when I was 2. So I mean, you know,
you're not even first generation.
Yeah,
you're an immigrant.
I know. I am an immigrant.
But you live in Texas, right?
I live in Texas, which is the last place I ever would have thought I would have lived. But I'm here, found love, and and I'm here.
And you're a Texan girl
But
with
I love
chickens.
it. Uh-huh.
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay. All right. So we're going to start with little Betina. We're going to get to today. We're going to talk about your three beautiful children, meeting your partner, career, the twists and the turns, how we get from playing bass to being on all of the fitness platforms, postpartum bodies. So little Betina was born in the Philippines.
Yeah, born in the Philippines, came here when I was 2. And the crazy thing is that my mom actually moved to the United States like a true immigrant before I moved. So she moved when I
Wow.
was 18 months old and had to leave me for 6 months. And back when I was a teenager and I knew that, I didn't understand how crazy that was
Yeah.
until now that I have kids. I'm like, I can't even imagine. Like I obviously like the break every once in a while, but I can't even imagine being away from any of my kids for 6 months.
So
Like that's just so hard.
what was the circumstance? I know that often obviously happens because somebody
Yeah.
gets an opportunity first or you have to go and establish, but what was the driving force that brought her first?
So her mom was already here, and then her 2 older brothers, and then she was like, "You know what? I want Bettina to have a different life than I did, so I want to bring her to the United States, but I have to go here first, and I have to petition in order for her to come." So I just stayed in the Philippines with my aunt for 6 months.
Wow.
Who knows what was going on in the Philippines, and then came here. Maybe I was playing with chickens, and that's why I love them so much, but
Probably. Or you were
yeah.
definitely eating food, I'm sure. And I'm sure you were well loved and taken care of. But God, could you imagine what your mom must
Mm.
have been feeling? That must have just ripped her heart right out of her chest.
Every time I think about it, I'm like, I don't even know. And I like most Filipinos, I feel like moms specifically, they're very like there's not a lot of emotion. Like we don't really like to show emotion in a way that's like they're always joyful. I feel like a lot of Filipinos are joyful and happy, but when it comes to the hard stuff, it's very just like you suppress everything. So I
It's
feel like
not
when I
like looking deeply in the eyes and being like, Bettina, I love you so much. I'm so proud of you. You mean so much to me.
yeah, it's I don't say that very often.
Your face just now was like, excuse me?
I was
I
like,
know you're not talking to me like that.
so accurate. It's like the love is there. It's like she obviously sacrificed so much to bring me here, and I know she's so proud because a lot of the things that I'm doing now, she even says like, "Oh my gosh, like you wouldn't be able to do that if we were still in the Philippines." So.
It justifies a hard decision that she made a long time
Mhm.
ago.
Mhm.
Oh my goodness. And so you were there. Was dad in the picture or no?
No, she was a single mom. She left my birth father before she even had me. And so, she truly was a single mom, like no child support, like that's not a thing, and it just you do it, you figure it out. So she had to go to nursing school real late, like every single day. Thankfully, she had a good family support system. So whether it was my Lola, my grandma, my her oldest brother's wife would watch me a lot. So I had cousins who I consider like my siblings because I would hang all the time. But for this part, like, I barely saw her because she would drop me off at daycare, drop me off at my aunts or my grandma's, and she was just going to nursing school and going to work and trying to do so much just survive. Like I remember I was like on those, I don't remember like the discounted meals at school and stuff. Like
Yeah.
I had like a special thing that would give me the lunch for free or what. I don't even remember what it was, but I
Yeah.
knew it was like all the special things because we didn't have a dual income home.
And you guys were living where at the time?
Cherville, Indiana.
Wow. It's just interesting where people like their entry point because it's like, oh, if you know a couple people, then that's the safe place where you go and you start.
Yeah. Yeah.
That must have been crazy culture shock for her. You
Oh
were
my
like,
gosh. I
happy to
think
be
I was
here.
the only brown person at my school, I think.
At what age did you like that? Like clock that?
Really not until moved. So my mom married a man when I was she started dating him when I was 9, and then she married him when I was in 6th grade. And then I had to move from my school and move to a completely different city. to the south suburbs of Chicago and went to like a public school that was very diverse. And I think that was the first time I was like, oh, there are other brown people. There's other people of color. Wow, this is cool. Like I just didn't
Wow.
really think about it. But as I look back at a lot of photos, even just of like Girl Scouts and stuff, I'm like, dang, yeah, I was the only brown person.
The stuff that you don't realize is just your normal because it's your life. You don't have anything to compare it to. And as you get older, you're like, wait a minute. Are we sure?
Yeah, and you're so young. You're so innocent too. Like you don't even you just see the world as for what it is when you're a child, and you're just kind of like do do do. And my mom even like now she like some of the moms were mean to her.
Shitty.
Like
Yeah.
yeah, they were really shitty to her, and so she, and I never felt that. I always tried to protect me from that.
Yeah.
So I feel for her because I'm like, man, that's so hard.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, so you move schools at 9, which is like a pretty formative age to totally up and move somewhere else. But it sounds like maybe for you that was kind of for the better because you got to
It was the
be
better.
in.
Yeah. I for the first time, met other people of color, and I went from a Catholic school to a public school, and it was just so completely different, but there were so many more activities. There was, I got to do dance, I got to do theater, I got to do all these different things that I didn't really know was possible before. And yeah, it was just fun. Like I just remember having so much fun when I moved. But then it wasn't really until high school when my mom got divorced from that guy where like things kind of
By the way,
shifted.
I knew a divorce was coming because you're like she married a guy, and I was like, we're not talking about a guy who's still around. Like she married a guy, like that guy's gone. He's out of the picture clearly.
You listen. Yep, exactly. No, yeah, yeah. She married a guy. He was like, I'd call him my dad still, but like, he's not. He's my ex stepdad. And he had a daughter, and great and sweet human. They just weren't. I think my mom was literally just looking for a dad for me, so she wanted someone that could like bring me to a new life and this and that or whatever she thought a new life was. But yeah, they got divorced when I was in I think a sophomore or junior. But that was kind of a shit show. I'm not gonna lie, because when they got divorced, it was like so confusing between the two. And I mean, that is, you're 16, 17 years old. That's a time where you're like so many different emotions, hormones, things, and like they're like kind of pegging each other. Like it's just like, I was just kind of like, okay, I don't know who's good, who's bad, but my mom would let me do all the cool stuff, like have parties at my house.
Yeah.
Like because she wanted to make up for it. And I think that's kind of what led me to like more of a wild lifestyle. Instead of going to college, I did play in a band for a living. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but like for a Filipino family, that's definitely not the most ideal situation.
And was she like, okay, like whatever you want to do, because she was just trying to keep you close?
Yes, it's exactly right. And I think that she also kind of had a desire to do a lot of the things that I was doing, because when she became pregnant with me, she actually was doing modeling and producing, and then she kind of had to stop that. So I think she secretly was living vicariously through me, even though her brothers were all like, no, Betina should be going to nursing school or become a doctor or this and that, So like everyone was like, what? She wants to play in a band for a living? Like, what is she? What? So I made a living for quite some time. So no complaints there, but it was definitely a wild time.
You were a bassist, right?
Mm-hmm.
So talk to me about the stereotypes of being a bassist. Because like, sure, you play, I feel like a lot of bassists know how to play guitars, but I feel like bassists are a very specific type of individual, Betina. So like what are some of like the bassist stereotypes? Let's test them out.
Let me think. I feel like I think because I was the female bassist, it was so different, because most of the time the bassist is just the person that's just there. They're just there. They're just holding it down.
They're part of the team. Happy to be here. Part of the team.
Happy to be. Yep, exactly. Was the female bass player. I was always so used to having the spotlight on, because it was like, oh, they have a bass players. So cool. And then I female singing and a rapper. So like group of people playing in this band. But yeah, I mean, I was just happy to be there.
Now, so you were clearly into like performing and you
Yeah.
didn't have a problem being in front of a bunch of people, living large on the stage. Was that part of like your whole childhood experience where you were just like outgoing and ready to chat, ready to meet people?
Yeah, it's interesting you say that because I mean, my mom put me in like an acting class. Like, I don't know. I feel like I was so young when I was in this acting class. And I feel like I was like 9 or 10. Like, who puts an acting class at 9 or 10? I don't know. Maybe I wanted
I
to do
live
it.
in LA, baby.
Yeah.
LA, I mean, every fucking person turns out.
That's true. That's true. But in Northwest Indiana, like,
Yeah,
so
maybe
I don't
less.
know. Yeah, a little less. But yeah, so my mom put me in this acting class, so I feel like I just always kind of had that. And then I just liked playing guitar. I played guitar at church actually. That was the first time I ever learned how to play guitar or play music. Sang at church, this and that. So I was kind of used to just performing and doing things. And then when I went to that middle school, that's when I started doing like the drama club, the dance team, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, I think I was just used to performing all the time. But I
And
don't know if I was ever
go
really
ahead.
like outgoing. Like I feel like that it was almost like my outlet to like I'm like the introverted extrovert, like
Yeah.
I was very internal, but I wanted to present and I had so many things to show through my performance,
So for you, it was more of like a channel rather than like, I'm up here because it feels good to like have this attention.
Yes,
I'm up here
totally.
because this is like a channel for me to release something.
Yes,
Now,
100%.
were you always into sport and sort of athleticism along the way as well?
No.
Okay. Okay, so
not
when does that
not at
picture?
all. So what's funny is I thought that shape when I played guitar because basses are not light. They're pretty heavy. They're heavier than a regular guitar. I could dance around on stage. We were in a cover band, so we played sets that were 90 minutes to 3 hours
Wait, what kind of
dancing
cover band
around.
though? What kind of cover band though?
Oh, oh, it was fun. We played hip hop, pop, like top 40. Like at the time when I was playing it was all Katy Perry hits, like all Kanye when Kanye was cool. Like
Do we
all the
have
really like fun.
footage of any of this?
You know what? This was all before Instagram. So I'm 38 now. So it's like that. I'm kind of, to be honest though, I'm kind of glad because I don't know if I would want all that footage when I was on stage. I mean, I was
Fine.
straight up on my knees, taking like Jack Daniels shots, like while my bass guitar taking
While playing Katy
yeah, like
Perry.
yes, 100%. Like we used to play with this band called Hairbangers Ball, and as you can imagine, like they played all the 80s hair metal. But they were like the party band. We were the like cool like high school or not high school, college band. Like we would go to play college and stuff. But Hairbangers Ball were the ones that like would bring like the actual party because they were just like
Maniacs.
I mean, they were just drinking on stage. Yeah, maniacs. So anytime I played with them, I'm just glad that Instagram wasn't around then. Let me tell
I'm
you.
gonna Google them later and see what they're all doing now.
Yeah, I'm curious.
I'll see. I'll keep you posted on what I find in my investigative journalism.
Yes.
Later today.
Hairbangers Ball Chicago. I'm curious.
Okay.
Too.
I'll let
But
you know.
yeah.
I'll let you know what I find.
Yeah.
Okay, so you unfortunately don't have footage for us, but you were a wild child in this band. So you thought you were in good shape because you're basically doing squats to take these shots while carrying a very heavy instrument.
Yeah.
So you got to be
lunges,
shredded.
But yes, so I thought I was in shape. My roommate Corey, she was going to this gym that was like really cool at the time, and she would come home and be like, "Oh my gosh, I took dance class today. I took Leo's class today." Did it just like so happy, and I was like, "I'll go with you sometime." And I saw that she had 10-pound weights, and I was like, "All right, she's kind of crazy, but I'll just take these 5-pound weights for now." And this class, I was so deeply humbled. Like I could barely do any of it. Like it was like doing all the stuff that I do now, doing squats, presses, you're jumping over stuff, doing rows, you're doing all the things. And I was just like, oh my gosh, I can't like these 5-pound weights like annihilated me. But strangely enough, I was like, you know what? I'll go back after a week of like, wallowing in my sorrows
Torture.
of
Yeah.
how, yes, torture. I was like, you know what? I'm just going to go back. And then I got really consistent. And the more I went, the more I was like, okay, like I'm getting better at this. Now I have the tens like Corey. And the next thing I know, I had the 12 and a halves, and then I just started getting stronger and stronger every time I went. And the real change happened where I would go to my shows instead of getting like the pizza and the wings. I started like shifting how I wanted to eat. I was like, well, I'm gonna feel like if I eat that, maybe I'll have like salad with chicken or something that it just wasn't as greasy. We'd go to the gas station that we'd always go to after certain shows. I usually would pick up like all the gummy rings, the Sour Patch Kids, like get the McDonald's ice cream cone. But I was like, yeah, no, I'm good. And then the real shift happened was whenever I would like before the shows, I would start like doing squats and push-ups and planks and just like get myself feeling good before I played. And then I noticed all my band members wanting to do it with me. And I
Oh,
was like, huh,
wait, so are
like,
you what, early 20s at this point?
yeah, I was like 20, 22.
Okay.
Yeah, 22, 23. And so at this point, I was like, I'm like, have an influence on people and they want to be healthy. They want to try it. Like some of them were like, well, Betina's getting the salad. Like maybe I should too, and I just noticed as I had this influence. And that's when I was like, you know what? I'm making the same amount of money. We haven't been playing like as many shows. Like, why don't I just get my personal training certification and maybe I can just train some people for extra money, And
Yeah.
then boom, like I was teaching all these classes. Like I was honestly, that was probably the most ripped I was only because I used to ride my bike in Chicago from one place to another. I could be car. So I was like riding my bicycle from one place to another and just all across the city, like just teaching
You're like
classes,
soul
doing
cycling
everything.
between classes, basically.
Yes, literally. Yes, and I was even doing that. No, no, but yeah, and so I was like, man, this is like so cool because I would just be playing on the weekends, but then during the week I would just be teaching classes, training people, and having so much fun. And then eventually I just figured out it wasn't really sustainable to be staying up till 5 a.m. on Fridays. Oh
No.
my gosh, awful. And then like wake up on like Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday to train people at 6 a.m. because most people that wanted to train usually work and then had to be
Early.
at work by 9. So it had to train them early. So yeah, it was just a busy schedule. And so then I just decided to quit the band because I was like, this is not a healthy lifestyle for me anymore. It was something that I really loved doing, but I made the decision and it
It
was the best decision I ever made.
It's so interesting, Bettina, because I was going to ask you, when you first decided to sort of make these tweaks to your lifestyle while you were still in the band, I was going to ask you, did you receive pushback from people? Because I found in my own life, less so now, but even to an extent now, more so when I was younger and was like trying to figure out how to optimize my nutrition. I have like some
Yeah.
health, so I'm always trying to like figure out the cleanest way to eat, the best way to eat. I found socially it became really challenging
Yeah.
because we bond so much over food,
Yeah.
especially when you're in like a band like environment, like a rock and roll environment, that you know, sometimes people aren't super amenable. Like it sounds like you kind of got this best case scenario of people were like, "Hey, like what you're doing looks good." Because there's just
Yeah.
sort of the flip too, where people can be like, "You're so lame, Bettina."
Totally. And there was definitely I think that there were people like a little bit in more of the outside, but what was nice about everyone in my band, we were all younger and I feel like we were also very impressionable because we were younger. Whereas some of those other bands like Hairbangers Ball, like they were all like in their later 30s, 40s. So they're probably a little more set in their ways. Whereas we
Yeah.
were all a little bit younger and just like learning from each other every single day. And I'm also not going to lie, I was quite a bitch before I started working out. Like like I wasn't like a like I felt like I wasn't a good person. I was bossy, I was angry, I was tired all the time. I mean, like it's because I was partying and just sleeping in my like this tiny room that I had in an apartment and just like not a good person. But whenever I saw the shift that fitness made in not only how strong I was getting, but the food that I was eating, my attitude, how I wanted to treat myself and how I could empower other people. It just really shifted who I was. And I think that the people in my band, they were really like, wow, okay.
Wow,
Like
but he's not a
she
huge
really
bitch anymore. This is great.
Ex-
I'll have what she's
exactly.
having.
Totally. And I think that was just such a beautiful thing. And but at the same time, like I think that shift was hard for me because there was a lot of imposter syndrome and also a lot of regret and shame of because of who I was before, and I was like, oh, well, I was doing this and I was doing that. Like, no one's going to take me seriously or this and that,
Right.
like there was a good period of time for like 3 to 4 years where I was like kind of like trying to prove myself more, but it took a while, but I finally got through that.
And then when did you sort of happen upon the Nike engagement, like all of these things that because it took you
Yeah.
from you're on a stage in one very different setting. You sort of transition to a different type of career. It takes you off the stage. You're still influencing people, but in a much more one-to-one sort of way as a trainer and, running classes. And then all of a sudden you find yourself back on a new kind of stage with your new skill set, kind of in some ways blending both of those skill sets together.
Yes. That's what I thought was so incredible. I mean, I was teaching classes at one gym at this point. I settled in at one spot. The owner of this gym, Crosstown Fitness in Chicago, which is a place that's still doing really well in Chicago. He asked me to become the fitness director, so I became like the face of the training team. Led all the classes, and my classes were always full. And I remember one day, this woman Becky, who had been coming to my classes for weeks at this point, she was like, "Hey, Betina." I'm like, "Yeah, what's up?" She's like, by the way, I work for Nike and I wanted to see if you wanted to go out for lunch sometime. And I was like, am I getting punked? Like, what is happening right now?
Am I
Is
gonna
this
get some
real?
free shoes?
Yeah. Can I have like a free shirt? Yeah. Cause I still
Yeah,
wasn't making a lot of money. So like free
right.
shoes is like the most exciting thing ever. But yeah, so she basically had, we had a little meeting and she was like, "Hey, look, like we really love what you have to offer and your training style. And we just want to bring you onto the team and have you lead some classes and do this and that." And so I started leading classes. And again, yeah, like you said, it like blended this like the thing that I used to do also like people's lives in this big platform. And then next I know, they were like, "Hey, can you fly to Paris and we're going to film your first workout for the Nike Training Club app?" And I remember like wanting to puke because I was like, "What?" Like that was literally a dream. Like I never would have
Yeah.
imagined that I could be in the Nike Training Club app, and like let alone Nike even wanting to represent me. So yeah, next thing I know, I was flying business class to Paris, which by the way, I remember the first time I walked into that like pod thing that you sit in business
Yeah.
class. And
Yeah,
I was
yeah,
like,
yeah.
what am I in? And there's a guy sitting next to me and I started pressing the button and I was like, I should have been in a movie because all of a sudden I was like, oh my gosh, I'm still going down. I'm still going down. Oh my gosh, I'm laying down. Like I was like 24 or 25 at this point. So I'm like, what is happening right now? Like this is like, and I didn't even know that I was flying business class because I was just so
Right.
innocent.
You're just
Like,
like
no,
you're
I
like, "Here's my
have a
ticket."
ticket. Yes. No idea. So that's when it really
Unbelievable.
shifted. Yeah, it was such an incredible experience. And I was like, oh my gosh, like what? And then from there, like it just kind of skyrocketed. I think at the time, like Nike Women was really popular and they were doing a lot of things all around the world. And I don't think they had anyone of color really that represented, or at least Asian, that represent any of the trainers. So that was really cool to be the first one.
Yeah, that's incredible. And at the time, are you like negotiating your own deals? I'm sure they gave you a contract where you just like, "Yeah,
Yeah,
sign it."
they honestly could have been like, here, like you're married to Nike for the rest of the life and we're paying you $0, and I would have been like, okay, cool.
Right.
Like I had no idea what I was getting myself into, but I was just so excited about it. But yeah, nobody was really I just kind of did everything blind. I knew I had to sign contracts. I looked at it and just said, okay, cool, I'll sign it, you know. But it
And I
really
asked
wasn't
just because like
until
you're a businesswoman now. So now it's
yes.
like you're in
Oh
a
my gosh, I'm
totally
glad you asked that because yes, no idea what I was doing.
so throughout this journey, are you like, and this is something I'm extremely curious about. Are you like dating other trainers? Because it's a bunch of extremely young, attractive, ripped people all hanging out. Is it like everybody's getting busy, or is it more like, ew, gross? I don't want to be with people in this
No,
industry.
I was always like, I'm never dating any other trainers. Like that was like I was like, nope, never dating other trainers. And actually, I will have to back up a little bit because um, I don't talk about this a lot, but in the time period that I was starting to do all this stuff with Nike, I actually was married and divorced. And
Okay, first of all, we love a starter marriage on the pod. It's a very common theme, so I think it's very interesting. Okay, so let's rewind. Let's get into
yep,
that. So, who is this chappie? A guy?
yes. So this guy, no, actually, he was the guy that I went to high school with, and he
Okay.
actually in high school had a crush on me. Never really, we never dated or anything. And my I think it was, I don't remember exactly when it was, but it was when I was like starting to become a trainer and everything. He was actually playing baseball for a living. He played for the Dodgers
No big
and
fucking deal.
was I know, big effing deal. He was
Yeah.
a starter pitcher. And so I was like, "Oh, hey, you've been looking good lately." So, of course, I'm early 20s, not,
Sure.
only thinking about whatever. But so, yeah. So then, yeah, when he came home and then, we started hanging out. Actually, no, not, he didn't even come home we hung out in off season. And then he was in season and like I was in LA. We hung out. We like ended up really liking each other and then just got serious pretty fast. Um, and then, I will say like in the time period that we were together, I think we liked the idea of being with each other more than
Yeah.
we really got to know each other. And um there was I hate to like really throw him under the bus here, but I don't think he's ever going to listen to this or his friends, but I have found some text messages where didn't seem like he was very loyal when he was not at home.
Yeah.
So, tried to leave him, tried to break up. Instead, somehow we patched things up and he patched things up with a really shiny ring and we got engaged. And then, I think over that time period, I just kind of like told myself, oh yeah, like he never did anything. It's fine. Like we're good. We're so happy. Everyone, like no one knew what happened. So like
Yeah.
everyone thought we were this perfect couple from high school. Like everyone's like, oh my gosh, John and Betina are together. Da 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 da. And then we got married. I think our wedding cost like way too much money. It was the most beautiful wedding ever. It was published in all the bridal magazines in Chicago. And yeah, like not even 3 months later, I was like, I can't do this. I'm not
That's a real
happy.
starter marriage.
It
But
was
I give you a lot of credit for leaving or
yeah.
for whatever was
Yeah.
decided for
Yes.
ending it
It was
because
hard.
sometimes that's the harder thing.
It was the hardest thing. And I'll even go even deeper than that. After him, well, a lot of people were surprised or whatever because I didn't tell people that would happen. Like I just
Yeah.
was like, I just decided to leave. So for the longest time, his friends hated me because they were like, "Oh, she just left you. What a bitch." Da
Right.
da da. I didn't want to do that to him. Like it was more like this is
Yeah.
just for me. Like I don't want to be part of this anymore. And this, I mean, at this point, that was 2014. So
This is ancient
very,
history at this
yes,
point. Yeah.
ancient history. And now he's married, has a kid. Like he's very, very happy. But after him, I actually started dating somebody else who I played in a band with. So, but it was like a fun band, like we just like, it wasn't like we were playing for money or anything. We were just playing for fun and we
Right.
started dating. And then I moved to Portland with him while,
Mhm.
I'm doing the Nike thing. And then I moved to Portland with him and then we got engaged. And then
She's a
same,
keeper, like she's wifey material. I don't know what to tell you guys.
yep, we got
She can't help it.
engaged. But I think he was a rebound, and I know he was a rebound. And at this point, it was one of those things where I didn't want to look like I failed, so I'd never left him
Yeah.
right away. And then we got engaged, and then I was like, okay, cool. Like, we got along. Like, this is fun. Like, and then like, but it was so fast. And then all of a sudden, same thing. I was like, wait, this is no, like,
Maybe I
not
shouldn't.
no.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe I shouldn't. And that was another obviously really good decision that I made. It was hard. I think that he had a really hard I know that he had a really hard time. Um, But I'm so happy. And same thing with him. He's also married, has another dog. And, like those people, like good
He
riddance to
has a
them. But
dog. Wait, Betina, though. I have to say also, professional athletes and musicians aren't necessarily like
no.
known for
Mm-mm.
famously being the most accessible best partners. And if you are a
Yes.
professional athlete or you are a musician, no shade, love to see you prove us wrong. But like stereotypically as a group, kind of challenging.
Agreed.
So maybe we dodged
Agreed.
some bullets here. Wait, your husband's not a musician or a professional athlete, is he?
He was a professional athlete, but
But he's not anymore, so that's
not
okay.
anymore. He wasn't when we started dating.
There you go. It's fine. He's absolved. Okay. Okay. So we've dodged some bullets.
Oh,
Dating
yes.
trainers after these chapters, because it's like models. Models, I feel like, often say like, I don't date other models.
Yeah.
Similar sort of thing. So you're
That's
not
so true.
you're not like stooping the competition in so many words.
Yeah. Yep.
And then how old are we at this point? Post second
So
engagement.
post second engagement, I actually left him. I never wanted to move to Portland. Like it was more like his dream to move to Portland. And at that point I was like, oh, all my friends are in LA. Like, why the fuck not move to LA? Like all my Chicago
Yeah.
friends that I had, they all literally just plopped themselves in LA, East LA, and they're all there. So I was like, I mean, I don't have anything to do here in Portland. Like everything I did was just like remote, or like when Nike
Yeah.
needed me for stuff, they were like, cool, like we could fly you in or whatever. And so my friend Chelsea drove with me down, packed all my stuff, like, a truck to move my stuff down. We just drove down to LA, and next thing I know, I was living in LA. But
Amazing.
this was 2018. So I'm in
Not that long ago.
2018. Yeah, not that long ago. And I was so happy. Like I finally felt like I was in the city that I really wanted to be in. But dating was definitely hard there. But I told
Yeah.
myself not to date. I was like, you know what? I'm not going to date anybody. I'm just going to focus on myself.
You're like,
Like,
Betina, clearly you're not doing this right. So just take a minute.
right. Exactly. Literally.
You're on probation.
Yeah. All my friends were like, need to just stop.
Yeah. You need to just eat, pray, love. A minute. Then
But what's funny about the eat, pray, love, I actually, at the time, because it was before COVID, I started a nonprofit called Dance with Winnie, and I would go to Africa, to Kenya, and bring volunteers out there and work with kids with disabilities, and that was kind of like the time that I had to myself to like serve and to really just, make things not about me anymore and just really give back to other people. And I think that when I took that time to really just, make things not about me and just really stay in tune with who I am. And I got closer to the church and everything. And I just felt really like grounded in myself.
Yeah.
That's when I was able to just like not try to find validation from men or whatever. Cause like my mom was a single mom. I never had a steady man figure ever in my life. So I was constantly looking for attention from men. I didn't
And it's
know
like, how
what
do
a
you
good
form
man
your
was.
checklist? Yeah.
Yes.
How do you form your checklist of like, these are the yeses and these are the nos? Because
Yep.
what are you comparing it to?
Exactly. Exactly right. And it took me forever. Like I really just didn't know what, like I had no idea what a good man was, to be honest.
Also, Kenya, right here. Shout out. This
Hey!
is my.
Oh,
I spent a lot of time there as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I love that connection.
Yeah.
Did you jump with the Maasai?
I don't have ups like that, but I appreciated the jumping.
Yeah.
But it is, there are these experiences, right, where whether it's going really far away from home and being exposed to something different, or to spending time with people who are just totally having a different lived experience to you, that makes you realize like, oh, it's not actually about me. It's not all
Yes.
about me.
Mhm.
Or like sometimes I get myself in trouble with this a little bit too much, where I go the other way, where I have spent a lot of time in extremely poor communities around the world. And sometimes I'll be like, well, my problems or my feelings don't matter because I know that there are people out here who are dealing with so much worse. And that's a
Yeah.
slippery slope too, because
No,
like
of course.
my problems and my feelings do matter, but I do think it can provide some healthy perspective when we're like tying ourselves up in knots about something. And then you're like, wait a minute, big picture here, maybe this is not a big deal. As long as you can kind of like find balance,
Yeah.
you know. So okay, so we have some eat, pray, love. We spend some time reflecting, being alone. And when do you meet your current man?
Nick, the man,
Nick.
the love of my life. So I was training clients at this place called Vitru. It was like one of those
Oh, I
private
know
trainer
this
gyms.
place. Yeah.
Oh, you do?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
awesome. Yeah. So
Some bougie friends of mine tried to convince
yes,
me to try it.
of course, I'm sure they did. But that's actually Sam used to go there. But yeah, so we both had our clients. So he was training a bunch of football guys from there, or there. So I mentioned he used to be a professional athlete. He played football in college. Played. He got drafted by the Chargers, and then just stopped playing because he didn't make the team. Like he made the team, but he wasn't on the roster. So
Yeah.
I think it was just too much for him, and he just decided, I'm going to start training instead. And so he was training his clients out of Vitru, and so was I. We were friends, like whatever. And I remember one day complaining to one of the trainers, like, like I can't find any good guys here, da 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 da. And like this guy Carl was like, well, Nick is single, right? And I was
Nick's in
like,
the corner like
I
this,
am,
like with
yeah, yeah, right.
what are we
But
talking about,
I
guys?
really was like, I literally was like, I would never date another trainer. Like I told him that. So when you said that, I was cracking up because I was thinking to myself how I told that to Carl.
Dun
Like, I
dun
would never date
dun.
another trainer. Yes. And then but after he said that, I was like, man, Nick is really hot,
Fact.
but he's also like really nice. Like
Your face right now.
and you're like, what? There's not a lot of nice guys in LA. But it's funny because, I didn't know much about Texas guys or anything. And like, I knew that he was from Texas. My friend Megan, who also worked at Vitru, is from Tennessee. So from Kentucky. So she's also very Southern Belle. Like, and she was like, no, these Southern guys are so polite. They're so nice. Da, 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 da. And I was like, I don't know. Like, it's probably fake. Like, I don't get it. Like, why is he so nice? Like, yes, ma'am. Yes, sir. I'm like, okay. And so, and so I don't know. Like, I just was like, you know what? Like, we just started flirting at the gym, and then we decided to go on a date. And I was like, man, he is really, really nice. And then so we just started kind of dating here and there. And then, his parents came into town one day, and I met his parents, and I met his dad, and I saw how his dad treated his mom, and I was like, oh, like this is real. Like
You're starting to make your checklist now.
Yes, I was like, he's
Yeah.
actually a nice guy. He's, like I had no idea. And so that's when I really, I feel like I already was falling for him, but I think whenever I saw like he truly is just raised this way, oh, okay, he's a good man,
Yeah.
because he's learned from it. He's seen it his whole entire life. Like how he doesn't know anything else but that.
Right. And like he also has like a family that's going to hold him accountable if he's being a shit.
Yes.
Like you don't grow up in that kind of environment. Like his mom, his dad are going to don't talk to Betina like that or whatever it is. Like he's from an environment. Yeah. Where there's a high standard.
Oh my gosh. He's so close to his parents still. And like, I'm very blessed because I love them so much. And like, I know not everyone loves their in-laws.
Sweet.
It's like, I love them.
Yeah.
Like they're just amazing.
So did you guys always know that you wanted to have kids? Was that part of the conversations?
Yeah, it was. Well, at this point I was 33, I think. Oh no, I was 33 when we started dating, and I was already, before him and I started dating, I was thinking about freezing my eggs. And I was like, I haven't found anybody yet. Like I don't know how much time I have, so I'd like to look into the process. I know it's expensive. And then when we started dating, like I had mentioned that to him. Like I was like, yeah, like because I was like, at this point, I was just putting everything out there because I was, I don't even care if a
What do
guy's
you have
gonna
to
run,
lose?
he's gonna
Yeah.
run. Yeah, exactly. So I was like, yeah, I want to have kids. So I just don't know how much time I have. So like, I'm thinking about freezing my eggs. And he was just like, well, I want to have all the kids possible. Side note, he's also 8 years younger than me, which
Oh,
a lot of people don't realize. So
no.
I mean, he's like 25 when we're having these conversations. So I'm like, this guy's nuts. He's 25 and he thinks that he
But he's
wants to
a
have all these
Texas
kids.
25, which at 25 in
Exactly.
Texas, he probably thinks he's supposed to be married already.
Exactly. No,
Right.
exactly. So I didn't realize that either. So I was putting everything out on the table. And then COVID happened. Because we started dating like mid 2019, and then, or like late 2019, and then COVID happened, and I felt like it sped up our relationship a ton. We were like,
Yeah.
okay, like we're stuck with each other. Either like we're the only two people we're really going to be hanging out with. So we figured out real fast if it was going to work or not. And he ended up moving into my place. And then we talked about like, okay, well, maybe at some point, like if I get pregnant, I get pregnant. We'll get married at some point. And then that year I got pregnant. So I was like, all right, I guess
I
we're
feel
doing this. And
I
like,
feel like it's famously like, well, if it happens, it happens. And then it's like, of course
yeah,
it fucking happens.
exactly. Exactly. It's because you're so relaxed about it. You're like, okay. But
Sure,
yeah,
easy
so yeah,
peasy.
we've been, yeah.
And you've been cranking out
But yeah,
children ever since.
ever since, yeah. And
And
honestly, I never would have imagined my life would be like this, and it's incredible.
so did you guys move to Texas?
2022. So 22.
Okay.
And when Luna was 1. Yeah, because she was
Okay.
born in 2021, and then we moved a year later.
And through this whole process, what drew you to the idea of doing like an at-home water birth? Is that something that you always knew you wanted for yourself? It's giving like Los Angeles patchouli woo-woo, but could also be like, I'm like a trad wife milkmaid from the 18th century. Where are we getting it from?
Well, when I had a Luna, I gave birth to her at a hospital, but I had a really awesome OB. She was an OB that had a notoriously low C-section rate, so I knew that was really important to me. Like I didn't want someone that would just opt to go to C-section. I wanted
Yeah,
someone that was going to allow me to do what I wanted to do, or at least try. Aluna's birth was actually very quote unquote like medically traumatic, I guess, because it took such a long time. She was stuck, and then I had to do all this and that, and then they had to use a suction on her head and all these things, and she was in the NICU. She had a skull fracture. All of that to say she is healthy and happy. But I recovered, and it was really challenging.
sure.
And I was very blessed to have the OB that I had, because at some point in the whole labor process, she was like, hey, look, you're swelling a ton. And most OBs right now would say, let's just take your baby out through a C-section. And you don't want that. So you're going to have to get an epidural. Because I was like, no epidural, no epidural. I was trying to
Yeah.
like do everything natural as possible. But she was like, you have to get the epidural, and I'm going to give you Benadryl, and I want you to sleep. And then I think the swelling will go down, and then you could push for the baby. And so then, I did that, and then I was able to push. Yeah, it was like a challenging thing, but I was able to give Emily, which is what my wish was. And when we moved to Texas and I got pregnant, I did not know how to find an OB that was as wonderful as she was.
Yeah.
I was trying to ask around, but I didn't have any friends yet, really.
Yeah.
So I didn't really know where to go, and like Google wasn't very helpful. Like I just didn't really know. But I found an OB, went to her. She was fine, cool, whatever. I was like, good enough. Then I just like about like, I think it was like week 10, I was kind of like second guessing her, but I still was like, whatever, like someone recommended her to me, should be fine. But then I went to a baby shower, and I overheard the photographer who was pregnant. She was talking to someone, and someone was like, well, yeah, good luck on your water birth. And I was like, huh, okay, that's interesting. So then I started talking to her, and she told me about a birthing center out here. And so at week 20, I just toured this birthing center and was like, I'm gonna try it. So I did the birthing center, learned all about it, learned about midwives. I had no idea anything about midwives. And then met there was a collective, so there's a bunch of different midwives that I would meet. And then you got to pick the room that you were going to birth in. And the birthing experience that I had was so incredible with OSA. This was my second. And the only thing that I didn't like about the experience, to be honest, was the fact that I had to get in the car before and after. So I was like, well, I guess for this third, I'm just going to do it at home because I'm just going to use the same midwife that I used. And
Yeah.
she delivered the baby. I saw her the whole time for all my checkups and everything. And the birth was incredible. I got to just crawl into my bed right after. And I was the most chill in that my third birth with Makoa than I ever was, like, ever, because I would have a contraction. I'd be like, doing the moos, like really like
Yeah.
low contraction. And then I'd be like, oh yeah. So anyway, earlier Aluna did this, and they were just like, they were just looking at me like, is she serious right now? Like, I was just so chill. And like when the midwives came for the baby, because they were trying to find his heartbeat, because I was just talking to them, but then he was actually a lot lower than what they anticipated, because they thought that I wasn't in that much pain. But I was just like, da, 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 like just having normal conversation. I think it was just the environment, because I'm such
right. You felt calm because
so,
you're at home.
yes, I'm so sensitive to my environment. And like, I think that just being at home, I was like, whatever, like, I'm going to just, I'm going to go in the tub later on and just push the baby
Pop out a baby. Sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
right.
my mom straight up told me that her mom is one of my mom is one of 7. And so her mom, she would be like, oh yeah, Lola would just like pop a squat in the kitchen and just give birth to the babies, and then the midwife would come over and take care of the baby. I was like,
wow,
I'm going to channel that energy then.
It's in your blood. It is not in my blood. My people, like in whatever Ukraine a couple hundred years ago, were like, somebody get some vodka in here or something. Like, we were not. I applaud you, ma'am. So now we have to get to the part. There's a couple things I'm interested in, but one piece is obviously, and this is, I'm sure, something you talk about a lot and think about a lot, is like, you're a trainer, but you're not just a trainer. You're a trainer who's like visible and is filmed doing your work. You like have set a lot of precedents for postpartum training and pregnancy training and all of this stuff. How does that feel? Like, do you feel, I'm going to guess what your woo-woo answer is going to be, but I want to know the truth. Do you feel any pressure to like get to a certain place by a certain time with your body, given it's your instrument for your work?
Sure. I my opinion or my answer to that has definitely changed since my first. When I had Aluna, I definitely had the expectation that I was just going to bounce back and this and that. And so I tried to do everything that I used to do. And even though I was pre and postnatal certified, like, I was going against everything that I studied and that I would take my clients through, because I had that expectation for myself. And then I was bleeding, I was peeing, I was doing all the things that like you're not supposed to do, and the things that I was telling my clients you had to watch out for. And I was like, all right, I need to humble myself. I slowed things down. I definitely slowed it down a ton. And then after OSA and Makoa, I took a lot more time to really, really tune into my body more, that breath work, that mind-body connection. I'm so passionate about it now, because I feel like the thing that I am most passionate about is that during pregnancy is a time that women, people are so like cautious with you. And they're like, oh, yeah, like you can't do anything, this and that. But it's honest, such a empowering time in your life. And it is a time where you can lift weights and still do things, obviously safely, but like it's going to set you up for your postpartum. So if anything, I was like, I'm really trying to encourage women to really move when they're pregnant, because it'll make you feel better during pregnancy. And then your recovery it's not just about, bouncing back postpartum. It's more about setting yourself up to feel good, to be able to carry your baby and not have your back hurt and do all these things, and start to bring that mind body connection back. But in that postpartum period, you really have to be gentle with yourself. You have to give yourself 6 to 12 months, if not longer, to let so many things regulate hormones, your body, and just
6 to 12 months, people. 6 to 12 months.
Yeah. And that's like a
Yeah.
minimum. And it's just so sad because we hear you go to your doctor after 6 weeks and they say, all right, you're good to go work out. Just be careful.
Go work out and have sex. Get on with it.
Yeah. What?
Yeah.
Like, what? No way. Like our bodies have recovered so much. Like the fact is your body changes more in that period of prenatal and postpartum more than a man's does in his whole entire life. So we have to give
Fact.
ourselves grace, and I think
Totally.
that I did think I was invincible after my first one, but then I was humbled real fast. And then I really took care with Osa and Makoa now. And this postpartum period, even after having uh, consecutive pregnancies in such a short amount of time, this is the best I felt. I know that I don't look physically like I did before being pregnant, but I know I feel better than I did. So that's most
I
important.
mean, yeah, that's huge. With my first, like, I remember I think I was 3 or 4 months postpartum and somebody asked me if I was pregnant and I was just like, "Oh, okay, we're about to fight." Like I didn't know. Like I was just like so upset, but eventually got back there. And then with my second, I remember at about 5 months postpartum, I was just like, okay, like this is my mom body now. Like I wasn't upset, but I was just like, this is what I look like now. Like this is it. This is it. And if this is what it is for me, like that's fine. I'm at peace with it. And eventually, once I kind of let go of being like, I'm happy where I am, it actually allowed me to progress a lot in my fitness. But it was only until I just was like, if this is what I look like, this is what I look like. Like I bought bigger clothes and I was just like, this is what I am. And then, and then everything changed.
Progress. No,
and then I
I
got
think
progress.
we don't give ourselves enough grace. And like I know so many women that they probably don't. You're just trying to figure out your new life too, with one child, with two children, figuring out working. I mean, in the United States, like you have to go back to work right away.
This is actually a perfect segue because I just want to understand. I want to know because not only do you have 3 small kids at home. I mean, how old's Makoa?
He is 3.5 months currently.
Yeah, he's like little peanut. He's a little nugget. You've got 3 little kids at home, and none of them are at daycare. Like they're all home with you, right?
Yeah.
And you both work. You travel a lot for your job as well sometimes. I know I saw Makoa recently went with you on a trip, which is very cute. Who's the team that's helping you navigate all this? Because you can't do it, the two of you.
No, we can't do it ourselves. We're very blessed. We have Nick's cousin Michelle helps us, and she works for about like 15 hours a week. We pay her. We had a Luna in a daycare when we first moved here, and then we quickly realized like how much we didn't really need it because we do work from home and our schedules are so flexible. So between Nick and I, we communicate a lot. Like we try to really reset through each week or even just a few days and be like, all right, what's your schedule look like? We see it on the calendar, but let's like talk about like what the day looks like with the kids so I can get work done, he can get work done. Whenever he's here, it's nice because he'll be training clients and the kids can be outside with him. Me, I'm like trying to record videos. I'm trying to edit. And like when I have a computer and this and that, like the kids are wanting to go all over it. So it's a little different. So I'm the one that needs a little more space than he does when he's doing work. But I'm very blessed because Nick is someone who truly loves being a dad and he loves having the kids with him with everything that he's doing, whether he's going to the store, this and that. Like one of my best friends came into town a few weeks ago with her son, who's around Osa's age. Did you just hear the rooster?
I literally just heard a fucking chicken, a rooster.
He's right outside my window.
Honestly, we can end this thing now. My day's been made. I heard the rooster. Hi, rooster. Goodbye.
His name is Jojo.
Hi, Jojo.
Jojo. But no, so my friend brought her son Jade, who's about Osa's age, and that like that age 2 is like crazy. Like they're just insane. He was like, let's give the moms a break. He literally just took all 3, like Aluna, Jade, and Osa, and then Makoa was sleeping. He just took the 3 toddlers, took them to the store. He was like, no, you guys need a break. And like that's blessings right there. Not a lot of men will do that because even Kim was like, Jason, my husband would never.
No, absolutely not. In no universe.
I think I've been very
Nick's
blessed.
about to get a bunch of hate mail from a bunch of dads.
For real though. No, he like takes so much pride in it. Like he'll bring all 3 kids, including Makoa, to jujitsu sometimes just so I can get a break. And like the moms there will be like, "Oh my gosh, my husband will never take all 3 kids," and I think
No.
he loves it. He's like, "Whatever." It's like he absolutely loves it. So there that alone, just him and I are a team, but it is hard to do by ourselves.
Yeah, it's just not possible.
And
Now,
Nick's parents are here too, so that's helpful.
how old is Aluna now?
She is 3.5. She'll be 4 in June.
Okay, so you have some time before kindergarten, another year or so.
Yes, but guess what? We are homeschooling.
I fucking knew it. I literally wrote on my notes, "Are you going to homeschool?" ? Because you and your bathtub births, living in Texas with your chickens, I fucking knew it. Talk me through it. Tell
Yeah,
me, what's the game
yeah.
plan?
I think for us, it's because again, our schedules are so flexible. Um, because otherwise we would just be dropping them off, and they would be there for 6 hours, and we'd rather them be able to learn how to, take care of the chickens, take care of the bees, take care of the garden, and learn stuff from us. We're already like Aluna's 3.5, and she already knows how to read and write because I spend like daily with her on reading
Mm.
and writing. And I didn't even know that she could read until the other day. She literally like read something. I was like, "You just read that." I'm like, I think we just don't give our kids enough credit because they go to school and and I get why they have to go, especially if you work a full time job,
Yeah,
and you need them to be out. You need someone to watch them for six hours, but they're only going at the pace of the slowest kid in the class or the
right.
pace of the class. So I'm usually just teaching Aluna for 20 minutes a day, and she's learning enough. And I think that when we get all our materials from kindergarten, I'd rather just spend 30 minutes, 60 minutes with her, and then just do other things outside and let her do her thing.
Now, is this something that you always knew about yourself that you would wanna do, or
No.
is it something you've discovered?
No, it's just something I discovered. Between Nick and I, we both just decided it was the thing that we wanted to do because we have the ability to do it. And I will say there's a little bit of fear too. I think we just get scared with like everything that's happened with certain schools, which
Yeah,
but that's not it. I think we just love that they learn from us,
yeah.
and they have a lot of social stuff. Like they both do a lot of activities. We go to the library and they have a ton of friends that they go see there every day. So it's just like,
They'll have their community.
yeah, and yeah, I
Now,
feel
woman, please look me in the eye and tell me what you fight about with your husband. Because
Ugh, I think.
because you spend so much time together, both the 2 of you and with your children, that if you tell me that we do not have arguments, I mean, I'm not
Oh,
saying you have to
no.
yell at each other, but, like, what
No,
are
it's
our key
usually it's
topics?
usually about it's usually about the house being a mess. And
Okay.
like this man collects the most water bottles I've ever seen. Every single jar, every single water bottle is in the gym, in his car, in the garage. But for the most part, we don't really fight about anything.
Gross.
I know
Ugh,
we're annoying. No, I'm
you
trying to think
guys are
like,
so gross. But what about, like, for instance, when you're doing these schedules every week and you're
yeah.
balancing this and that, like, is there ever tension where you both need to be doing something at the same time and Michelle's
Yes,
not available?
totally. That's probably that's a lot of things too, and I think the things that we'll probably we'll argue about sometimes is if he knows I'm getting worked up because I'm trying to do something and he's in the middle of something, he knows that means like he needs to take the kids. It doesn't matter what he's doing. I'm more important, it's like that kind of vibe. So like he'll definitely have a little like, "Oh, well, come on, like, all right, come on, guys, let's go," because he knows that mom needs the space. But and then I'll
Bettina,
be
who
like,
was the bitch in the band, she might be asleep somewhere deep in there, and on some level, he knows that.
yes, a
So,
hundred
like,
percent.
he doesn't ever want her to come out, it
Yes,
sounds like.
yes, exactly. Yeah, no,
She's very deep.
it's pretty funny. Like we're he knows that for the most part, like if I need the space, like he's taking the kids. But if he's worked up, like that's usually what we'll get all like if he's in the middle of something, he'll be like, "Well, I'm doing this," da, da, da. But for the most part, he'll just take the kids.
Now, do you recognize that so many of the choices from the outside, not a therapist, it sounds like that you have made in raising your own children and having your own family are a direct response to how you grew up?
Oh my gosh, yes, 100%.
I mean, you love your mom. She was worked so hard. She was never around. You're like,
Yep.
I'm keeping my babies. They're not going to, like, they're homeschooling with me.
Yes, like literally the opposite.
My dad wasn't in the picture.
Mm,
I need to be doing something. This man knows that he is taking his children. Like, it's
yep.
just such like a, you seemingly on purpose or otherwise have figured out how to find all of the things that you felt like you were missing
Oh my
as a
gosh,
kid.
it's really wild. And it's so nice because he will actually listen to me like dissect that. And
Yeah.
I think he really appreciates it, knowing I think he knows that I appreciate him because of
Yeah.
it. So that makes our relationship even more special because I'm sure if you grew up with something like this your whole life, you may not appreciate that as much.
Right. Now, do you guys ever go on date nights?
Yes, we have to. We
Okay.
haven't gone on a ton. My mom was in town for a week, like a month ago, so we went on two. We went on two dates, but we've gone on a few. We need to go on them more often, but like it's childcare is not cheap. Like we'll have Michelle come over or whatever, but like she's working during the week, so we don't want her to come over on date nights. So we'll find a different babysitter, and then a date night ends up being like $600 because you're paying someone to just sit at your house while the kids sleep for like 4 hours or
I
5 hours.
know.
You're like, what the heck? And plus
Sometimes
dinner.
the math, yeah, the math
Yeah.
does not math on that. I know.
Yes.
Well,
So
whatever
we're
you're doing, it sounds like working. I mean, you have date
yeah.
night with the chickens, I guess.
No, and like the one thing that what we really love is that when we put the kids down at night, we put them down and we each like separate. Like he'll go outside, he'll do some stuff outside. I'll stay inside. I'll like read, like have like we usually spend like anywhere between 30 to 40 minutes like alone. And then afterwards we'll like come back in and just like start talking about whatever, like sit on the couch and cuddle or whatever. So I feel like we try to make sure that we have our own time to on our own to like decompress from the day, but then
Yeah.
also know that we end the day together.
I love that.
Yeah.
Well, this has been so fascinating. We've covered so many different aspects of life, from the wild bassist taking shots with the hairbangers to today raising chickens and bees with your family, homeschool pending. And it's such a complete picture that I'm looking forward to seeing what next. I was watching some video the other day of you. You were like doing deadlifts with a tension band or
Oh
something.
yeah.
Is that what was happening?
Yeah, Nick already had it set up for his athletes, so I was like, I'm just gonna do it too.
You're just gonna give it a shot, sure. But I appreciate that you're filming and sharing parts of your life that are the mom where she is, not where she got to, because I
Yeah.
think it's useful for people who are also on that journey to see that people who are literally professionals also have to do the work and put the work in, and to show
Yes.
people that you're doing that work, I think is hugely inspiring. So I really appreciate you spending the time with us, Betina.
Thank you so much for having me.
Team, I need your help. If you love it here, please like and leave a review on your favorite podcast platform. Subscribe to the Substack for full access to this episode's show notes and join the discussion. And of course, follow me on Instagram at Mutha, MUTHA.life, for a daily look at all things Mutha. Thanks for listening. Be sure to tune in next week for another Chat in the Closet. This podcast was produced by Mutha Life, music by Ronan Landa. See you next time.